So we're looking back on this day in 2012. 34 mine workers were killed when police officers opened fire with assault rifles near Marikana, and some of the killings near a hilltop called Wonderkop were caught live on camera. The policemen involved claim that they felt in danger and they acted in self-defense. The Farlam Commission was also at a loss when it tried to make findings about the events at a smaller Koppie nearby, where many mine workers died away from the camera lenses. But photojournalist Greg Marinovich investigated and wrote an award-winning book, Murder at Small Koppie, the real story of the Marikana Massacre. He joins us now via Skype. He is based in the United States. Thank you, Greg, for speaking with us tonight. The claim of the police officers that this was in self-defense, I think it's fair enough to say your book blew that out of the water. Just take us through some of what you found.
Yes, so the police initially, after the massacre, stated that they were acting in self-defense because the miners were attacking them. This was very difficult to disprove at the time because the video footage was ambiguous. You don't really know exactly what happened. Yet, as we investigated, we discovered that the police didn't mention there were two killing sites. The one was the one we see, the terrible footage of the miners being mown down by a line of policemen with automatic weapons, that footage that you're showing, which was awful. But what is not shown, because there were no cameras or journalists there, is that in the rear distance, behind the Koppie we see behind those policemen, there's a smaller Koppie, which is where people go to use the latrine because the shacks and shanties don't have enough toilet facilities. Lonman doesn't provide, the state doesn't provide, the municipality doesn't provide. So that's this broken down bits of Koppie where people can find privacy to go to the toilet. And that's where people ran to hide as they were trying to escape, those who weren't involved. The police had encircled the entire area and they moved in a coordinated fashion to trap the miners and hunt them down, which they did. They then killed many there. Half of the miners who were shot by police were shot at the second site. This, for me, once I understood this, once people came forward, because the people who were witnesses had all been arrested. They arrested 279 of the survivors and charged them with murder, whereas they were the victims. Yeah. But, so we didn't have eyewitnesses to what happened, but looking at the site, it was very clear that where the police had marked evidence and the sites of people had been killed, this was no accident. This was no overshoot or crossfire or something. Yeah. This was a hunting down and killing. And it's from there that the investigation began.
And you believe that these mine workers that were hunted down were unarmed, posing no threat, possibly even surrendering?
So 2 pistols were found. One had been fired, but no police were wounded or injured in that small Koppie area. In fact, none were wounded anywhere by miners on that day. Many were trying to survive. So Shajak Mshamba was my first witness who was released from prison for being arrested as a survivor, so to speak. And he spoke of his experiences of trying to surrender and of watching people being killed and shot down and of that terrible fear and how the police treated them. And his story proved to be accurate. He gave testimony at the Farlam Commission, and many other people supported this claim. No police have admitted to this stuff. In fact, only then Major General Naidu, I'm not sure what his rank is now, was accused of hunting down people at Small Koppie. He was meant to have been charged. He hasn't. No one else has been charged either in the killing of 34 mine workers at that site.
So are you shocked? No one has been arrested 8 years later.
It's not shocking. It's just depressing. It's almost, if you look at the causes of what led to Marikana, it was a collaboration of the mining house Lonman, of now President Cyril Ramaphosa as one of their shareholders, of the state, of the police, of the ruling party, the ANC, of NUM, to try and keep these miners underpaid and downtrodden, which is against everything that these people allegedly stand for. So the fact that no action has been taken doesn't shock me. It just saddens me dreadfully.
Well, the Farlam Commission said that more investigation was needed to determine culpability. It said the NPA should act. From what you saw, and you have mentioned one police officer's name, do you believe there is evidence there to lead to convictions?
I don't know about convictions because the law is a strange thing, but certainly people should be charged. There's enough evidence. And whatever criticism Farlam's Commission has suffered under, much of it valid, it really pulled out amazing amounts of evidence and truth and testimony. And the evidence leaders were remarkable. The investigators were remarkable. All the lawyers from these different NGOs who took part in it were unbelievable. And what they proved was that people were lying, that there was a coordinated police attempt to obstruct justice. The police got together and fabricated lies, which were disproved time and again. The fact that the police knew a massacre was coming, they had a meeting of all the commissioners beforehand, and in fact it was from that group that we got the information. There was someone who thought it was better to tell the investigators, and that person's still a secret, thankfully, but we know that this was no accident. This was no reaction to a feeling of threat. This was the idea, but we can't prove it until it goes to court. Yeah. And if NPA doesn't charge and IPID doesn't charge policemen, we'll never get to it. They'll be too old, they'll die, they'll disappear, memories will completely fade. It's unbelievable that this massacre has not been prosecuted.
And what do you mean when you say this was no accident? I mean, we know the police declared D-Day. How up did it go? How concerted was this decision to use live ammunition to kill people? Is that what you're saying?
So that's my take on it. It's a lot of people's take on it. It's the miners' take on it. It has to be proven. It's an allegation at the moment. But when you look at all the evidence, when you look at the meeting of the commissioners the day before, the night before, when you look at the fact that mortuary vans were ordered, when you look at the fact that so much R4 automatic weaponry ammunition was ordered, when you see the attitude of the people who were in charge, when you see what Barnard Mokoena from Lonmin was saying, there's no doubt that this was a politically motivated action by the police, which in itself is outrageous. But why weren't non-lethal weapons chosen? I mean, this scene that you're seeing with this police stepping back, there was a funnel that the miners believe was a trap. There was barbed wire, razor wire, and police all along that led the miners into this funnel. They say it's where they could arrest them. The miners say it was a death trap where they could be shot.
Yeah. And I mean, all this raises questions about our democracy. So let me ask you one final question. You're teaching in the United States. I'm sure you get a lot of questions about South Africa, about Marikana. From outsiders, is there a sense of disbelief that we're moving on, seemingly, with a lot of threads very loose?
So, I mean, I think at the moment there's so many other things happening in the world that Marikana has disappeared, except from a few Africanists and those who care about it. Marikana has disappeared into history, sadly, internationally. People think there's bigger problems, worse problems. But as South Africans, I think we should care about it. Because if we allow police and our elected politicians and our officials to do this, it's a precedent. It means we'll just keep on going. If we offend them with our actions, if we want people to be accountable, if we want capitalism to be just as it isn't at the moment, it means our people are going to get mowed down again for being disobedient. That's ridiculous.
All right, thank you very much for your time tonight. Greg Marinovich, the author of Murder at Small Koppie, the real story of the Marikana Massacre.